What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Jordan Peele came out with another movie, Us, another horror movie, his follow-up to Get Out from 2017. Just a great movie. He's a great writer, great director, just knows how to tell a story, knows how to tell a layered story. And Us came out, got announced. Very looking forward to it. Wish I hadn't seen trailers necessarily. I really need to figure out how to avoid trailers in general. I think it would just help my experience more. I did not like Us as much as Get Out. This one, it kind of similar. They are like long format Twilight Zone episodes, which is fitting that he's doing the reboot on CBS, at least producing it. I don't know how much writing or directing he's going to do with it, but they do kind of have that feel. Wasn't expecting him to come back with another horror movie after Get Out. But other than that, like I would like to see him tackle other genres maybe, unless like this is his lane, and getting 100% for a horror movie is ridiculous. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the 100%. I think for a horror movie, the bar is so low with horror movies as far as like doing a well-written, layered story with good directing and acting. It's pretty rare that you hit all those marks with a horror movie. So for that reason, I could see why it's getting a lot of the love. But overall, I think it's one of those movies where everything kind of wraps up and explains. It attempts to explain a lot of things at the end because there's a lot of questions going on. It starts off kind of in the past in like the 80s, and little girls at a fair with their parents. It's a fair that's at a beach or a bay, kind of like a lakeside fair, something like that somewhere. And she kind of strays away from her dad, who's, drunk and not really giving a shit and, just kind of fucking around. And then the mom has to go somewhere. So she kind of fucks off on her own and gets lost in this like kind of House of Mirrors kind of a thing, which at the time was called like the Indian Walkabout or something like that. Or the Indian, it was Native American themed, and then later when she's grown up, it's like wizard themed. So it changed, which was interesting touch to add, that it changed the cultural insensitivity of having even though the inside of the thing was exactly the same. But anyway, she gets lost in this House of Mirrors, electricity goes out, and on her attempt to try and find the exit, she runs into herself, which is a scene in the trailer where she sees herself and she's like very surprised, and then cut to, she's got PTSD because she ran away and her parents are like, I wish we had our daughter back and all this stuff. And then it cuts to her as an adult. She's going on vacation again, back to this lake with her husband and 2 kids. And while they're on vacation, I mean, this is all in the trailer, that there's a family shows up at night on their driveway. Turns out to be like doppelgängers of their family. It's Us. And so it also sets up in the beginning of this movie that the world is like, there's all these tunnels underground, which for this, so what this movie does, spoilers. So what this movie does is that it posits that clones were made of people, but they couldn't get the soul. So these clones live underneath all of us throughout all these tunnels somehow, and they are parroting everything that we do. So if we make a movement, they apparently make a movement, although there's many times in this movie where that's not true, where they're kind of, clearly doing different things. I think maybe I have to watch this again, and, now that I know the twist, or the just kind of more of the universe, that maybe it'll make more sense. But that's kind of like, so everybody's got like a double and they're all underground and they're just kind of doing the same thing. I don't really get the scissors. I mean, there's the metaphor that they're entangled and they're trying to sever the entanglement, but I don't know, like, was that just a choice made because of the metaphor? I don't know. And then there's this whole Hands Across America thing. So it's like what I thought in the trailer was just the family that they run into alternate version of them, but apparently everybody has a double, and the doubles are in an uprising. They're coming back to kill everybody with their scissors, and take the top side of humanity back, which I think is a Twilight Zone episode, if I'm not mistaken. So, but then even more spoilers at the end, you find out that when she was a girl and she ran into her us the first time, her duplicate or doppelganger the first time, that her doppelganger actually choked her out and kidnapped her and then took her place. And so there's this whole theme of like, because they have like this weird, they can barely talk, which actually makes sense that she was able to talk kind of, versus all the other duplicates just kind of make weird noises and grunting sounds. But it's kind of like, I guess you could, if you were to compare it to like socioeconomic, where you have like people on the outskirts of towns and cultures are just the poorest people, whether they're white or black or whatever, but they're all like, the mountain people, or the people, if you're in the desert, they're the people that live like out by the Salton Sea where it smells like shit all the time and there's flies everywhere. But it's like, you can't afford to live anywhere else, but that's where you are. And maybe like if they were given more opportunity, then they wouldn't be living in those situations. So I guess you can kind of, but then the whole metaphor, I don't know. It seems like too much. It seemed like there was just too much at the end. There's definitely, this movie makes you think about a lot of things. Like it's not as, even though Get Out had like kind of an extra, kind of a sci-fi element to it towards the end, but it didn't really, the whole movie didn't necessarily hinge on that. I guess it did. It just, this one seemed like there was a little bit too much on the plate to sort through. And I need to listen to like more educated people have conversations. Like this movie needs to have a conversation had about it to kind of parse through and unpack all the different things. I mean, Jordan Peele, I love his work. I hope that it doesn't become like, I read like a headline that he's like at the verge where he could potentially become like an M. Night Shyamalan, because both of his movies kind of have this extra, just too many layers, not necessarily too many layers, but a lot of layers that are kind of twisty in a way. But I have like, where M. Night Shyamalan's more like Hitchcock, I would say Jordan Peele's more like Twilight Zone, and just like the greatest expression of somebody that came from a love of Twilight Zone and their ability to make just really interesting, complex stories in a genre that usually doesn't have a lot of people that are passionate about storytelling. It's more passionate about the genre of horror. So I really appreciate Us. I didn't like it as much as Get Out, but I wouldn't be surprised if I watch Us again, just to, especially after listening to other people talk about it, just go back and watch it again with new perspective on it. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun movie. The acting was great. The writing was great. So go watch it, everybody. Just, I mean, why wouldn't you? Jordan Peele, just watch, support everything he does. It's like the easiest thing you could do. And it's worth it. New episodes of this show come out daily. Subscribe on IGTV and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week in advance over at patreon.com/inspired disorder. InspiredDisorder.com for all of my original artwork. At Ray Taylor for me on all social media. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out.